Good morning, coaches. Today we're going to talk about personnel grouping the offensive line in a video that correlates with the article I released earlier this week. All right, we'll try to keep it short and sweet and to the point. All right, subjects will cover why it's important, the formula for success, where to start and what you should identify, and then we'll go into each individual position, along with some film that correlates with each spot. All right, so why it's important. Obviously, you want to get the right guys in the right spots, just like you do with wide receivers, with quarterbacks, with DBs, linebackers, and everybody else on the team. Oftentimes, this is left solely to the offensive line coach, and it's kind of his world and his world alone. But I feel that it's just as important as those other positions, if not more. What is best for the offensive line is best for the team. And that goes without saying. If you have a game where your offensive line is dominating, most likely you're going to win that game. So if the offensive line coach needs more individual time, he gets it. If he needs more pre-practice time, he gets it. If he needs the linebackers to come over for blitz pickup, he gets it. If he needs more time in scrimmage, he gets it. The offensive line coach pretty much runs the practice schedule. What he needs is what he gets. Offensive linemen are typically the best kids on the team, right? Just as skill guys deserve our attention, so do the offensive line, probably more so. Nobody can dictate a game like the offensive line. All right, here's a quick look at how we personnel our offensive line. When we have to choose, we look to put our bigger guys on the edge and our smaller guys inside. So if you look here, you can barely see the center right here, and you see our two guards right here. All three of these guys were under 190 pounds for the past 3 years. All right, over here we have our right tackle. He's clearly a bigger guy. And then over here we have our overtly large left tackle. And for a big guy, he really has pretty good feet. So he really helped us out a lot this year. The formula for success: attitude over ability over size. We want the guys who want to play so bad that they could just die. They'd do anything to get on the field. Blocking is all about attitude. 90% of it is just getting to the right spot. And getting to the right spot is just attitude and wanting to get there. Size helps, but it's clearly not necessary. Right? The guy who wants to get it done is the guy that will get it done, and the guy that needs to be on the field. Right. Here are a couple attitude plays. All right, here you can watch the play side guard. Really, there's nothing to the guy. He's 178 pounds, and he just gives all his effort on this play here. So he pulls out to the edge and just lays it all out. All right, here's another example. On this one, you can see our tight end over here. He's going to get downfield and get into the secondary. All right, that's all about effort. That's all about attitude and wanting to get out there and wanting to block somebody. Here on this play, you'll see our offensive tackle. He's going to get down into the secondary this time. All right, there's nothing that these DBs dislike more than having offensive linemen in their face all game. All right, when these offensive linemen can get down there and start roaching these secondary players, right, eventually that's going to wear them out. By the end of the game, they're not going to want to tackle anymore. They're going to start running around blocks, and that's going to help you out. All right, where to start and who to ID. I'm very big on everybody's snaps. Right, you don't want your center to go down and then have to put somebody in there who hasn't taken any snaps all season long to suddenly be taking snaps in a varsity football game. Move that guard that's been taking snaps all year round to center, and you can take that greenback and you can put him in his spot where it's not as critical. Right. Next, you want to identify who is interchangeable. What guys can play in what spots, no matter what. Right. Obviously, the offense that you run is going to help or hurt this. Like if you run a lot of zone, that's very easy because every spot's rules are the same. If you run a lot of wing T stuff, that might be a little bit more difficult because each spot has such different rules. Right? Who fits where? Right? Who's going to be best for center? Who's going to be best for guard? Who's going to be best for tackle? We use drills to ID who fits where. Drills done at high tempo are great for showing who responds to pressure. Quizzes on the fly during drills to see who can think quickly, that helps as well. Right, so you're in the middle of a high tempo drill and you're asking your offensive lineman questions. All right, they can answer that question correctly. You know who can think on the fly and who can think during action. All right. Also, I'm a big proponent of filming practice. Do everything you can to film practice. If you're not filming practice now, get with your head coach and start filming practice. If you are the head coach, I recommend filming practice all the time. At least film scrimmage. That way you can see where your deficiencies are before you get to game night and relying only on game film to identify and evaluate. All right, the center. This is typically where I want to put the smartest player. This is the guy that we can trust, a guy that can be your extension on the field. You know, not only does he set the huddle, but he should be able to ID fronts, at least in the aspect of odd or even. So obviously if he has a guy over top of him being a head up zero or a shade, that is probably an odd front if that shade is to the play side, the strength of the formation I'm referring to. He's the link between the left and the right side of the unit. And if you got a center that can consistently reach a shaded nose, you're going to have some pretty good nights on game day because he's going to cut off the defense for you. All right, guards. All right, of your 5 starters, I really believe that guards can be your worst 2 players. All right, they have help coming to them from either direction. All right, play calls can be made to make sure that guards get the help they need. You know that your guards have help on either side, and you know that they're your weaker of your 5 linemen. Right? And play calls generally for those 2 guys are pretty easy to call in their favor. Right? If you pull guards, like when you're running power O or if you're a wing T person, we drill pulling to a spot. We always pull to a spot. Right? It's much like a lot of teams drill screen plays. Right? We're going to a spot because any defender that is worth his salt, he's going to be in that spot. If he's not in that spot, then keep running that direction and you're going to have a good night. All right, here's an example of a bad call for the guard. All right, we have a guard here. Again, that's 178 pounds. All right, and we have over here a defensive end. That's a 5-star Florida State commit. We've been messing with him all game and doing a pretty good job of running away from him. For whatever reason, he decided to line up opposite of what we thought on this particular play. It did not work out too well for our guard. All right, here's our guard. Here's the 5-state commit. Now, I'm not picking on this kid because he always gave us everything he had. There just wasn't much to him, and we did not put him in a good spot to be successful on this play, as you'll see. All right, here is a call that helps the guard. Now we're going to run a sprint past this direction, but we have the center coming backside to help cut off the pursuit with the guard. All right. So now he has help here. We got 2 guys on that guy to cut off pursuit. You'll also notice over here on the 5-star, we put 3 guys on him. And he's still mauling us. He's a pretty good player. And of course, when you have a quarterback that can do these kind of things, it definitely helps you. All right, here's an example of pulling to a spot. All right, here is our toss play. Our guard is going to pull around the edge, and he's going to wrap and pin. He always pulls to the same spot because that's where the defensive player is going to be. So any defensive player that's worth a damn is going to be in the right spot, and that's where we drill the pull to. All right, here's another example of pulling to a spot. They can see here how small our guard is, and the linebacker just shoves him right back in the hole. But because he pulls to a spot and we get a body on a body, your running backs can now make plays and find creases. All right, your offensive tackles. All right, these are going to be the best of the unit. All All right, these are our most dominant one-on-one blockers. We want these guys to be able to stretch the edge and pin the edge. All right, a lot of times they have to do that by themselves, especially in a gap scheme. They're on an island in pass protection as well. All right, the tackles are your edge setters for the offense. We want these guys to be able to dominate one-on-one blocks when we can. Obviously, you don't always get that, but we put our better guys at offensive tackle. All right, the tackle with the best feet will go to the QB's blind side, just like everybody else in America. All right, here's a tackle's one-on-one block. We run the wide zone here. All right, obviously, sometimes you get a double team here with the tackle and the guard, but when it's one-on-one, we want the tackle to be able to handle this guy. Now, big guy does a good job right here of pushing this guy back off the line of scrimmage. Now, we really only ask these guys to push these guys laterally and run with them. But when you get a guy who can dominate the line of scrimmage like that, it definitely helps set the edge. Here's an example of tackle setting an edge. All right, this is our unbalanced set where we bring both tackles to the same side of the formation to help set the edge. You can see here, this guy back here is an eligible tight end, and we have tackle right here. All right, they're both going to down block on the belly G and cave the edge down and open up a path for the fullback. All right, tight ends. Tight ends and fullbacks are in everybody's program. I hear all the time people talk about not being able to find tight ends and fullbacks anymore. That's just ridiculous. They're in everybody's programs. It's up to us as coaches to ID them and get them where they need to be. All right. Just because they all want to go to the wide receiver spots or to the linebacker spots on the first day of practice does not mean you have to leave them there. Right? Us coaches will find them and find a way to get the best 22 players on the field. All right, where you can find them. All right, I like to steal from the defense. All right, that defensive end that can't quite make the lineup will take over to tight end, or maybe a sixth offensive lineman, or an outside linebacker that's not quite playing. All right, or big wide receivers. All right. I'm also a big proponent that these tight ends must practice with the offensive line. They are blockers first. Right, we want them to block first. They practice with the offensive line every day, and we'll take them from the offensive line when we want to do some pass route drills with them. But our tight ends spend about 90% of their practicing with the offensive line. All right, here's an example of our tight end. This kid right here is a senior this year. He gave us everything he had. He thought he was a wide receiver when he first came out, and he wasn't able to play there, but he had good effort. Or he liked to get into the right spot, and he wanted to play. So he came over and played tight end for us and did a really good job for 2 years. You can see him out here reaching the Ghost 9. And then running his feet and just finishing the block. I mean, he has a great attitude. He wants to block people. He wanted to help us. All right, again, I'm going back to this play, right, because this shows our tight end getting downfield. All right, and that's all about attitude and wanting to be on the field. I mean, even though that wasn't a very dominating block, I mean, he's getting downfield and he's getting in the safety's face. All right, in closing, the offensive linemen are often forgotten about until called upon. You know, they go off into their own little world in practice away with the O-line coach, and then they come back when it's time for scrimmage or time for some team pass rush. All right. Usually they're the hardest working group. I mean, I've been to plenty of college practices and seen plenty of high school practices, and the offensive linemen, they're always working. And that's what they need to do. I mean, first of all, they're playing offensive line because they're probably not good enough to play defensive line. So they have to outwork everybody else. All right, feel free to leave any comments and give feedback. I apologize for the little cough that I had during the video. Contact me at thecoachvote.com or follow me on Twitter. Thank you, guys.